I'm getting hungry. You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry, is one of the many laughable lines from one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Let's talk about Morbius. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my review for the movie Morbius. We're going to stay mostly spoiler free here. There is something towards the end of the movie that I want to talk about. We'll do that later in the review. So if you want to really avoid spoilers, you could sort of miss that last part. I'll mention when that's coming. But we got to talk about this movie. Oh my God! I mentioned up top it's could be one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Before we launch into the review, though, I do want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. I review pretty much all of the big movies that come out each week, and as well the new TV shows of the week. Lots of entertainment stuff on my channel, and I'd love to have you as a subscriber, so please consider subscribing down below there, or maybe even hitting that notification bell. It'll let you know when all of my new videos drop. Also comment down below, because I want to hear your take on this movie as well. It's getting dreadful reviews. As of this recording, it's at 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's about 12 hours after the worldwide premiere, so I'm sure the reviews are still rolling in, but not a good sign, for a Marvel movie especially. Now, I know it's not Marvel proper. It's Marvel through Sony, which owns all of the Spider-Man universe characters, but the end of this movie seems to indicate, again, I'm not going to do spoilers at this point, but the end of this movie does seem to indicate that a life in the MCU is possible for some of these characters. And we kind of saw that towards the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, because there's a Venom mid-credit scene, and of course Venom so far is just sort of in the Spider-Man universe with Sony, but that was a Marvel MCU movie, so now we're sort of folding Venom in, and at the end of this maybe we'll fold something else in. But anyway, the basic plot, so Jared Leto plays the lead character, Dr. Michael Morbius. He is a scientist suffering from a rare blood condition, and he attempts to cure himself, but in way of messing that up, becomes a vampire and gains superhuman abilities, but none of the typical things sometimes we do associate with vampires. Matt Smith is here as well as Morbius's surrogate brother, Milo. We also see Al Madrigal. Tyrese is here. Jared Harris, who's been in many films. All right, I already sort of a little bit spoiled how I feel about this movie up top. It is truly one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. So let's really explore why that is. So number one, this movie is all over the place. I know in movies past, especially sort of more with the DC universe, not so much with the Marvel movies, but there is an editing problem where too much is left on the cutting room floor, and as a result, the movie barely makes any sense. It happened certainly with Batman v Superman back in the day. Marvel doesn't typically have that issue, although you could, I guess, say maybe the Venom movies do kind of fall into that vein, but this is even worse than that. This movie, it barely makes any sense. I mean, you sort of get what's going on, but it just goes all over the place in so many different directions with very, very little context. So you don't actually ever know what's even happening in this movie. In addition to that, yeah, the line I read up top there with the, you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. Look, obviously that's a tongue-in-cheek reference to the Hulk, but it's such a cringe-inducing, eye-rolling kind of a moment, and this movie is littered with them. There every scene or two, there's like something where you're just like, oh my God, did they just say that, or did that really just happen? Over and over and over again in this movie. So that's a huge problem, obviously. Number two, Jared Leto, I don't actually feel is even giving his all for this character. And look, love Jared Leto or hate him. I know he has his detractors for sure. And specifically love or hate his version of the Joker in Suicide Squad. You can't deny that the man went all in for the role. right? And we've heard the behind-the-scenes stories with that too, which is a little terrifying. But in any event, you could see he really, really attached himself to that role, much like he did with Rayon from Dallas Buyers Club. Usually Jared Leto really, really attacks his roles. And here he just did not seem invested. And I can't quite put my finger on whether that is a problem with him, because I do believe that he usually goes all in on these characters, or if the script is so bad that he just didn't even quite know what to do with the character. I think that is a strong possibility too, because the script stinks, whether on the editing room floor or otherwise. I'm not sure that this movie was going to make sense. Also, as an aside, this is sort of more of a marketing issue, I think, than a movie issue. But I think Sony realized that they had a turd on their hands. And so, number one, they pushed the release date back a few months to leave No Way Home in theaters longer, because this was supposed to come out, I think, in late January. I think it was going to be like the week after Scream came out. But that meant No Way Home was only in theaters at that point for like 5 or 6 weeks. It was still, in the top 2. It was tearing up the box office. So I think Sony said, okay, you know what, let's push this back a few months. But in that, every new trailer they released was hammering home the Spider-Man connection. Oh, here's the latest villain from the Spider-Verse, all of this. Really, really trying to get butts in seats because the trailers looked so bad. And I'm not a trailer guy. I try not to watch them because I do think they give us too much of the movie. But I saw this one a couple of times. I saw it when I took my nephews to see Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I saw it again. I don't think it was in Spider-Man. I can't remember what it was in. It may have been in Scream or something. I don't remember. But in any event, I saw it a couple of times. And I thought to myself, wow, this looks like a turd. And I try not to go into a movie with expectations, but I had no interest really in this movie from the trailer. It looked so poor just from that, and it was even worse than I thought. Like, I thought, okay, well, maybe this is going to be sort of like a Venom, where it's like kind of a C or a C minus. Like, it's not good, but all right, it's watchable. No, this is horrible. All right, so let's talk about why else. We've talked about a couple of the reasons already. Leto's acting sort of leaves a bit to be desired. The editing stinks. The story doesn't make sense. But another thing is that it's not very action heavy. For a superhero movie, I think maybe the biggest sin you can commit is to be boring. And this is that. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care about what was going on. And I was bored. The action sequences, there's a few, but they're few and far between. And they're usually pretty quick. Like, yeah, at the end there's a big, blowout as always. But it's like, between that, we have to deal with this nonsensical plot. And also, the effects here are poor. I read that this was between $75 and $80 million to make, and I don't know where the budget went to because it was not into the effects. I mean, these are like $3 million effects, if anything. They're very, very bad. There's one scene where Morbius is like traveling through a train, like a subway station, and the subway car is chasing it. It looks horrible. I mean, I've seen a lot better in the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. And granted, they're doing movie type budgets, I guess, over there, but not like this. This was very, very bad. So there's another reason. Okay, so real briefly, I don't think this is very spoilery because it was in the trailer. But one of my biggest problems with the movie is that it was marketed as the Toomes character, Michael Keaton's Vulture from the first Spider-Man Tom Holland movie, was going to be heavily featured, right? He's not in this movie at all until the credits start rolling. There's 2 mid-credit scenes. He's in both of them, and half of it we saw in the trailer. I've never heard of a trailer that gave us the mid or end credits sequence. Like, what? So another reason they knew they had a turd on their hand, they was like, well, let's throw Michael Keaton in. Because that was one of the only reasons I was interested in seeing the movie at all, was to see the Keaton stuff. Barely in it, a blip, at the end just to maybe tie it in a little bit with the MCU and see where it's going. But I really hope they don't, because the MCU, in my mind, is heading towards sort of some life support anyway. Eternals was horrible. Some of the TV shows are okay, but Black Widow I didn't think was that good. I think this new phase of Marvel, other than No Way Home, and Shang-Chi, I did love Shang-Chi, is going to need some help. So bringing Morbius and Venom into this world, I don't think is the thing that they need right now. So I really was annoyed about that. I spent the whole movie, about an hour in, I was like, are they getting to Michael Keaton or what? Like, the one thing that might liven up this movie. And no, they sure don't until the credits start rolling. So that was just kind of disgusting. Like, how it was like, how dare you? I'm already annoyed with the movie, and now I'm like uber pissed. Yeah, for me, this is one of the worst superhero movies. Fantastic Four, I failed. So is it up there with that? I'm not sure which is worse. But yes, this one is a fail for me as well. It's my first F of 2022. Morbius is horrible. Stay away. Do not see. Even if they lump stuff into the MCU eventually, just read a synopsis about this movie. You don't need to spend the hour and 50 minutes with it. You really don't. You'll get nothing out of it, I believe. I certainly didn't. So that will do it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see everybody next time, hopefully for a better movie.